वनचारि यमुनातीरावनचारि 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 जय राधा माधवा गिरविहारी जय राधा माधवा गिरविहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय 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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 16, Text 27 and 28. Text 28 is on the board. So we'll chant that first. Tata sa saptaratrante vidyaya dharyamanaya vidyadhar adhipatyam cha लेभे प्रतिहितं नृपा तथा स सप्तरात्रन्ते विद्यया धार्यमानया विद्याधर आधिपत्यं च लेभे प्रतिहितं नृपा तथा स सप्तरात्रन्ते विद्यया धार्यमानया विद्याधर आधिपत्यं च लेभे प्रतिहितं नृपा तथा स सप्तरात्रन्ते विद्यया धार्यमानया विद्याधर आधिपत्यं च लेभे अप्रतिहितं नितपा तथा स सप्तरात्रन्ते विद्याधर आधिपत्यं च लेभे अप्रतिहतां नृपा तथा स सप्तरात्रन्ते विद्यया धार्यमानया विद्याधराधिपत्यं च लेभे अप्रतिहतं नृपा तथा स सप्तरात्रन्ते विद्यया धार्यमानया विद्याधराधिपत्यं च लेभे प्रतिहितां नपा ततः from this saha he saptaratrante at the end of 7 nights vidyaya by the prayers dharyamanaya being carefully practiced vidyadhara adhipatyam mastership of the vidyadharas as an intermediate result cha also lebhe achieved apratihatam undeviated from the instructions of the spiritual master nripa o king parikshit translation and purport o king parikshit after only 1 week of repeatedly practicing the mantra received from the spiritual master Chitraketu achieved the rule of the planet of the Vidyadharas as an intermediate product of a spiritual advancement in knowledge. Purport: if a devotee, after being initiated, adheres rigidly to the instructions of the spiritual master, he is naturally endowed with the material opulences of Vidyadhara Adhipatyam and similar posts as byproducts. A devotee need not practice yoga, karma, or jnana to achieve a successful result. Devotional service alone is competent to award a devotee all material power. A pure devotee, however, is never attached to material power, although he gets it very easily without personal endeavor. Chitraketu received this side benefit of his devotional service, which he rigidly performed in accordance with the instructions of Narada. I'll read text 27, the verse in the translation. Very nice. Chitraketustu tam vidyam yatha narada bhashitam dharayam asha saptaham abhaksha susamahitaha. Fasting and drinking only water, Chitraketu for 1 week continuously chanted with great care and attention the mantra given by Narada Muni. And then today, O King Parikshit, after only 1 week of repeatedly practicing the mantra received from the spiritual master, Chitraketu achieved the rule of the planet of Vidyadharas as an intermediate product of his spiritual advancement in knowledge. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinacharanam. So Hare Krishna. Thank you. So these two beautiful verses is describing what happens after Narada and Angira Rishi after they go back to the planet of Lord Brahma we were reading yesterday. So Narada Muni, he has given Chitraketu instructions on transcendental knowledge. He has also given him a mantra, and he's also given him instructions to chant that mantra. And as we were discussing yesterday, so now the abhideya part, the application part, is up to the disciple, in this case, King Chitraketu. Similarly, each one of us, we have received instructions from Srila Prabhupada or our spiritual master. And, and in those instructions that they have given us everything. And by careful application of those instructions, we can perfect our life. So of course in this case, Chitraketu, like Dhruva Maharaj, just 1 week, saying fasting and drinking only water, Chitraketu for 1 week continuously chanted with great care and attention the mantra given by Narada Muni. It's a small thing, but there's great care and attention. So there is, we are chanting, but then there is a quality aspect to our chanting. So it's not a detailed class on the holy name, but there are different stages of chanting. There is Nam Aparad chanting, there is Nam Abhas, and there is Shuddha Nam. And our Acharyas explain that by striving to chant with great care and attention, we enter into the stage of Namabhas. So initially, we don't even know what the offenses against the holy names are. So actually, in fact, some of our best chanting is the first week of our chanting. When we didn't know anything, I was like, wow, this can't be real. I mean, we had similar experiences like King Chitraketu. We didn't necessarily have Vidyadhara Adhipatyam, but we could feel the loosening of the shackles of the modes of material nature, just by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We had that experience. So we don't even know what the offenses are initially, and then somehow, like Srila Prabhupada, his disciples, they asked him, should we follow some rules and regulations? No. Okay. So then, so we foolishly we begin to inquire into the glories of the holy name. I'm sorry, I'm joking. But anyway, so we inquire into the glories of the holy name or the spiritual master or the Vaishnavas, seeing that somebody is sincere, they give them further instructions on the holy name. What are the offenses against the holy name, how to avoid them. So now, having received this knowledge, sort of the bar, is set a little higher. And with knowledge comes responsibility of applying and acting on that knowledge. So we understand. So sometimes some devotees feel, well, maybe we should just introduce people to the Hare Krishna movement, because not really tell them what the offenses against the holy name, then there are no offenses committed. So just keep people, introduce them, let them chant. But anyway, that doesn't work. Um, so we hear the glories of the holy name. We understand the offenses that are to be avoided, and then we understand that largely the offense, the root cause of all offenses, is inattentiveness while chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. I always wonder why, it's like amongst the 10 offenses, like an afterthought. Oh, by the way, 10 and a half. But that's the biggest one, actually, being inattentive while chanting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains how that is the root cause of all other offenses. So here, King Chitraketu, it is mentioned here that fasting and drinking only water, Chitraketu for 1 week continuously chanted with great care and attention the mantra given by Narada Muni. So there are two parts. So there is great care and attention, obviously, and there is austerity also here involved. So, so this austerity is of different kinds. Bhagavad Gita talks about this. Austerity in the mode of ignorance, austerity in the mode of passion, austerity in the mode of rudeness. So Krishna actually condemns heavily that kind of austerity, which tortures our body, and then also it puts the super soul in difficulty. Uh, but here, but also Srila Prabhupada elsewhere he explains that by taking up some voluntary austerity, one's determination increases. And determination is something that is required. I mean, it's an understatement here, but determination is required if we want to go back home, back to Godhead. Because here we are with so many, with a long sojourn in this material world, there are so many layers of to have a desire to. It's going to be a long haul. It's a gradual process. So in the face of many reversals that we can definitely encounter in that journey, we need it is not we don't need to sort of just practicing the principles of devotional service. That's our austerity. And to just sort of really narrow it down further to it is of course our enemy. It is with great care and attention. 14, 15 years, and Maharaj had this was to coming to a position of akam. What is different between Dhruva? So what was different? Yes, he had a big time. The Lord Vishnu, he saw the sincerity and the determination of this 5-year-old boy. So he sent one of his sons, Narada. And Narada tested him, but then he was adamant. He was determined, spiritually determined. I mean, he was determined to get, the kingdom at that point. But Narada Muni, he gave him a mantra, and then he began chanting that mantra. And it is mentioned that as he chanted the mantra, he became attached to the mantra, and the person that gave the mantra, and so his initial impetus was no longer driving him. So he moved, he shifted from the initial impetus to another impetus. That's so we all come to Krishna for either of those four impetuses that are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. But then at some point or the other in our Krishna consciousness there has to be a shift. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anartham. There has to be a shift to grow further. So that's the difference. Dhruva Maharaj, he became attached to the mantra, to the real deal that the mantra was going to give him. He was attached to that. And then of course Lord Vishnu came. He had audience of Lord Vishnu. So I also want to. This is one of my favorite stories. Hearing in Gita Nagari way back. It's a detailed, very complex story. But you can read. This is the story of Gopakumar. This is Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Srila Sanatana Goswami has written a book, commentary on Bhagavatam. So there are part 1 and part 2. So in part 2, it's like Bhagavatam, it's a story within a story within a story. There is a Brahmana who is illiterate, but who is a worshipper of goddess Kali, Durga, and he's a very ardent worshipper of goddess Kali. And so one day, as he's in his dream, this goddess Kali, she comes and she gives him a mantra to chant, Madan Gopal mantra, Brahmana. And so he's very loyal to goddess Kali, is devoted to her. So she has given him this Madan Gopal mantra. So he begins to chant the Madan Gopal mantra. She doesn't give him many instructions or anything, but he's attached to her, loyal to her. So he begins to chant the Madan Gopal mantra. And then, skipping many details, eventually he comes to Mathura, Vrindavan area. And then he sees this beautiful, cowherd boy. And he thinks he's Krishna. And he offers him obeisances and he's in ecstasy. He's thinking it's the same Madan Gopal that he's chanting, the mantra that he's chanting. So this young cowherd boy says, no. I'm not Krishna. I'm just a cowherd boy, small cowherd boy. And so this elderly Brahmana, he asks him, you live in Mathura, Vrindavan. I have received this Madan Gopal mantra. Could you help me understand this Madan Gopal mantra? And then he says, wow. In fact, the mantra that you're chanting is the same mantra that I have received from my spiritual master, this Madan Gopal mantra. So I can tell you. So he chooses to instruct this Brahmana by telling his own story. So usually we don't, tell our own stories, but then like Vyasadeva in the beginning of Bhagavatam, he tells Narada Muni, he tells the story to Vyasadeva, his own story, how he became, how he got the association of Bhakti Vedantas and how he perfected his life. So similarly, this Gopakumar, he begins to tell his own story, how he received his own Madan Gopal mantra from his guru. Yeah, so way back when I would hear, so this is Sanatan Goswami. He's writing this, book. So, I mean, at least I felt there were very many analogies between. It's almost autobiographical, very beautiful. Madan Gopal, his worshipable deity is Madan Mohan, and then it is mentioned that he received some instruction on this Madan Gopal mantra in Prayag. He goes to Prayag, and there are these amazing devotees, chanting the holy name and doing kirtan. And so obviously, and then we understand from, the biography, Sanatan Goswami, he met Lord Chaitanya in Prayag, the Dashashvameda Ghat. He instructed him. So anyway, so he receives this instruction from this saintly person, and he receives some benedictions. I'd like to read this, those benedictions. Even know those hearts, he leaves from there. Then he goes somewhere else, and then he goes somewhere else, and then he goes somewhere else like that. But the theme, what I really love about that pastime, is every time he always remembers, oh my God, I've received this mantra from my spiritual master. Abandon this journey to bestow upon me. So he feels, in extremely loyal and indebted to his spiritual master, and he's like, I have to realize the fullness of the value of this gift. And then he keeps going, but then again he gets distracted. His distractions also, transcendental distractions, but not like our distractions. Like he goes to Vaikuntha and they're like, yeah, it's nice, but it's not, Sham Sundar. I just don't, I can't connect here. And so again he reminds of his mantra, and he chants the mantra, and then again, so the holy name and the connection with the spiritual master and the desire to realize the fullness of the gift that the spiritual master wants to bestow through the holy name, that keeps him going, even though there are detours in his journey. So similar is our journey. As I said, our challenges may be something else, something more mundane, but But that's what we need to do. We may not, no, not we may not, we will not, we have not realized the fullness of this mantra in 7 days. But if it is 7 lifetimes or 70 lifetimes, it doesn't matter really. Uh, but our goal, I mean, my goal should be, I've received this most amazing gift, the holy name, and I have not even, scratched the surface of this holy name. Let me just chant sincerely and not Hari Krishna, but Hare Krishna. In his time, whenever he chooses to, he can, choose to ignore me or he can embrace me, whatever. It is on his terms. Surrender, what he wants. So, yeah, I invite you when you have time, read. Anyway, Nityan Front also loves this pastime. The story of Gopakumar, his journey, how he goes. The best part is his relationship with the spiritual master and his, you know, intensity in realizing the fullness of the gift, of the holy name. So now, just briefly, next, yeah. So we don't get bewildered here. Here, Prabhupada is the translation says, O King Parikshit, after only 1 week of repeatedly practicing the mantra received from the spiritual master, Chitraketu achieved the rule of the planet of Vidyadharas, and Prabhupada adds in bracket on purpose because we must think, just as an intermediate result, as an intermediate product of his spiritual advancement in knowledge. So, anyway, King Chitraketu is a king. He's a king. I mean, he had 10 million wives. And he's given Vidyadhara Adhipatyam, the lordship of Vidyadhara planets, one of the heavenly planets. But then Prabhupada writes in the next paragraph, next purport, that for a devotee, when a devotee is given some material opulence, it's not material opulence. It's a spiritual opulence. Prabhupada talks about temples. Like when we build these amazing temples, they're not material. Just like how the deity is not material, it is spiritual. Similarly, the temples that we have, the positions that we have, they are not material. They are just to facilitate some service that somebody has unto Krishna, devotional service. So some devotee asked the same question, well, why would he go to Vidyadhara? And the Vaishnava was explaining, well, some service. So he goes to Vidyadhara planet for some service. It's completely, so it's a heavenly planet. So obviously the sense enjoyment that is available there is even more high grade. But then the Divi would him. Prabhupada writes in the next paragraph, the next purport, doesn't bewilder him. It just for him it's a paraphernalia for a devotional service. All that he sees the material world as a paraphernalia for service, and the materials he sees it as a paraphernalia for his enjoyment. So devotee, in fact, if anybody should have Vidyadhara Adhipatyam or proprietorship over anything, it should be Krishna's devotees. Sometimes Prabhupada was challenged, by the reporters. Here you are, you come down so heavily on advancement and so on and so forth. Then why do you use aeroplanes? Why do you use technology? So Prabhupada gave different answers. Once he gave, well, you're running away so fast, so I have to catch you. I have to get on the aeroplane to catch you. You're running away very fast. And then elsewhere he said, well, if anybody is entitled, should use these things in the service, they are devotees because they see, their connection with Krishna. So that's what Prabhupada mentioned. Yeah. And then one other important thing here Prabhupada is mentioning is a devotee, he does not have to do any other practices like, jnana, yoga, or karma. Devotional service is the wish fulfilling tree. It will give you everything, whatever you need. Even material benedictions it can give. But of course, a pure devotee, Prabhupada writes, he doesn't ask for material benedictions. But it gives material benedictions also, if you want. Right? So, akama, sarva kama va, moksha kama udaradi, tivrena bhakti yogana, yajita purusham. Even if you have all desires, material desires, worship Krishna. Because the beautiful nature of Krishna is, Prabhupada writes in the next purport, that not only he might fulfill your desire, so he will do only that thing which will bring you closer to him. If something will, by giving you something, it will bring you closer to him, he'll give you that. But by giving you something, if he'll take you away from him, he'll not give you that. So, yeah, so he is a loving master. So he will give and simultaneously also take away the material, you know, portion of the desire and attract him to you. That. So again, summarily, Chitraketu received this side benefit of his devotional service, which he rigidly performed in accordance with the instructions of Narada Muni. Prabhupada begins, if a devotee, after being initiated, adheres rigidly to the instructions of the spiritual master, he is naturally endowed with the material opulences of Vidyadhara Adhipatyam and similar posts as byproducts. So, Prabhupada is emphasizing the importance of following the instructions of the spiritual master. And then, if one follows the instructions of the spiritual master, life's eventual goal is accomplished, even if you have some other, desires, they also get fulfilled. Pure devotional service. Krishna is very merciful. He can accomplish simultaneously many things at the same time. Even our material desires, Krishna fulfills. And the examples, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they are great examples. Srila Prabhupada, just by his wishing that something be done, they would do it. And Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, then they empowered his disciples beyond their capacity, beyond their imagination. And miracles are continuing to happen even today, but they were happening during Prabhupada's time. They continue to happen today. So this is the potency of the instruction of a spiritual master. Krishna follows the pure devotee is Satya Sankalpa. His desire is pure, and so Krishna wants to fulfill the desire of the pure devotee. Like this whole Dadichi, the weapon that was carved by Dadichi's body. It was Dadichi's body, but the empowerment of the weapon that Indra had, it was invested by Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu told him to go to Dadichi, get his body. It was not, it's both. Dadichi's body was specifically chosen, and on top of that, invested by the spiritual potency of the Lord. So similarly, the spiritual master's instructions are empowered by the Lord, and if we follow, then it will be to our benefit. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions? Nityananda Pran? No, not yet.
I remember there was a BTG, and in the first page or two, there was a list of various people in different. It wasn't like most of the people were from California, and they were talking of the glories of the chanting of holy name, and it showed one fella, and he had a health food store, and he says, since I've been chanting, my business has been enhanced. And then another person is, my mental problems went away, and then, all these, and some of these more materialistic goals were achieved. And then Srila Prabhupada saw it, and he said, this is not what we're promoting here. So that just came to mind. But I think it was volume number 11, issue 2 or something like that. But it was pretty interesting what, how Srila Prabhupada addressed that. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Jai Baladev. Yeah, in a minute or two, whatever you have to say. Keep it short, in a minute or two. Yeah, unless you have a question. If you want to share something, then.
Well, if anyone
No.
Mine is not exactly completely short, but it's related to your point. So that's why I try to wait to the end of the class, see if anyone else has. So
As of
if
now, there's
anyone
no
else
hands, but
so usually when we bring up points, sometimes that reminds people of points. That's why I like to wait till people have questions.
okay.
So you were making some really nice points today. Especially, you mentioned something about inattentive while chanting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned something like one of the, what was that comment?
Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that pramada, inattentiveness, while chanting is the root of all other offenses. The other 10 offenses that we chant, that we commit while chanting the holy name.
Yes, so in our chanting, I can't personally remember one incident with me. Of course, we've all probably had this incident, but one particular incident that I remember with Terrence, but like I said, we've all had it. Maya, make sure you forget your own faults. You kind of remember others people, but it's not a fault. It's just a funny observation. One time when Terrence was doing his rounds, or somebody said something to make him upset. People say things to us all the time to make us upset. So then he was explaining that, while in the morning, he couldn't chant his rounds. Instead of focusing on his rounds, he was focusing on this person who kind of, made him upset. So usually when we're, it's hard to focus on, not only are we, not focusing on rounds, but we may be creating some offense while chanting instead of chanting. So that's one observation I noticed. And another good point you brought up was about Prabhupada, how if we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, that then they will be safe. And a lot of times, one point I brought to Lakshmi Moni Mataji is that she mentioned the Uddhava Gita, and this is from a different point of view about the instructing spiritual master, Shiksha Guru. Of course, you're referring to the Diksha Guru. But some nice points that I, wrote down, so that I would like to share, and it's kind of connected with this book distribution, month, and it's very, I feel very important. So it's not anything I've realized, but something I kind of learned from others, and some connected points I would like to share. So of course, I first heard of the Uddhava Gita as a section 11 canto of Bhagavatam, but it was printed separately with commentaries by Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Jitendra was actually the first one who gave me this book. He gave it actually as a gift to a lot of people on a discount price. So it's one of my favorite books, and it's helped me a lot in my Christian consciousness. So I was very grateful for that. And so in the Uddhava Gita is basically explained that Avadhuta Brahmana took lessons from everywhere, essentially, from nature, from a bee, from a honey, even a prostitute, wherever he could find some inspiration, he took lessons from. And I kind of want to quote some verses to kind of make sure it's not mental speculation. Even in Prabhupada's Adilila Purporto from 1.35, he says, there's no limit to one's instructing spiritual masters one can have. So this brings me to the point of book distribution in this particular month, how sometimes we don't see the people we're distributing books to as instructing spiritual masters. Like, for example, I remember distributing books, for the first time in 2007, and I felt like a ghost because people was walking by. I'm like, I'm dead. You feel invisible. And so then, as time went on, I kind of realized, from associating with various devotees and the teachings they taught me, is that actually they're acting as your instructing spiritual master. We may criticize them for being sinful, or that's why they're not receiving the mercy, but actually they're purifying you of your anarthas. They're actually telling you to be more humble, be more tolerant, be more forgiving. They're actually instructing you.
Bhakti Siddhanta writes about this we read about this in Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhava, where he talks about the importance of Madhukari, going door to door, and he said it'll be good for you because they will think that you are the object of their charity. And so it'll be good for your false ego.
Yeah.
And he says, don't think doing nirjana bhajana, and don't give in to your sloth and laziness. Go door to door. They will throw things at you. It will be good for you. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a nice point. That was along with one other point I wanted to make is that I would encourage sometimes we buy books for this month, book distribution month, but we like to give them away as gift. But unfortunately, I mean, that's also good. But I would kind of encourage people to try to distribute, because the people actually you'll see how humble you are, or how they actually purify you of your anarthas, and so. I would encourage that, so that's what I've learned from several teachers.
Okay.
So this goes back to what other point I want to make. So of course this applies to also associating with devotees also, we have to be more humble, they're actually telling us to be more humble, even if they may criticize us. Sometimes people may criticize us necessarily or unnecessarily, it doesn't matter, the reaction should be the same, to be humble. And they purify you of your narcissism, and that way you could see everyone as a spiritual master. And this goes back to my favorite verse, one of my favorite verses, if not my favorite verse in the Uddhava Gita, in the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The verse essentially says in 8.13 of the Uddhava Gita, Krishna says, one who does not desire anything within this world, like honor or respect, who has achieved peace by controlling his senses, whose consciousness is equal in all conditions, and whose mind is completely satisfied in me, finds only happiness wherever he goes.
Yep.
And in this commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he writes, when a very wealthy man travels all over the world, wherever he may stay, he will enjoy the same luxurious standard of comfort. Similarly, one who is advanced in the wealth of Krishna consciousness constantly experiences transcendental happiness because Lord Krishna is all-pervading. So that's one of my favorite quotes and commentaries in the Uddhava Gita because essentially you could kind of see everyone as a spiritual master. And it's funny you mentioned Bhaktisiddhanta because I was going to mention a lot of times people, the persona we see of Bhaktisiddhanta is that he's the lion guru. Of course, he's known as the lion guru. But in browsing through the, Bhaktisiddhanta by Bob, just flipping through, trying to find some inspiration, I came across one lotus-like, basically, he's known as the lion guru, but actually he's just as soft as a lotus. Yeah. He's actually the lotus guru. And some quotes I would like to mention in this regard, so illustrating this point. How humble he was. A lot of times we try to be, more grave and serious. We can't cry or anything. All right, thank you. You can read it, so you go. Hare Krishna. So in the Bhaktisiddhanta by Bhav, it's volume 2. The chapter is entitled Guru-Disciple Interactions, and it's page 263. The quote says, basically some of his disciples fell down and he was very morose. He even sent some of his other devotees to go retrieve them. He was very, sad about this. Some of his sannyasi disciples. And in the Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, it stated, quote, he, Bhaktisiddhanta, became so heartbroken upon hearing of I don't know what this word is, but you'll kind of get the gist of it. So he became so heartbroken upon hearing of the apostasy of a sannyasi disciple that he began to cry, appealing to Mahaprabhu. Why did you give me the inspiration to award that soul sannyas if you were not prepared to protect him from Maya? I have no power. I am helpless. I resign. I will no longer do this service. Although deeply disappointed, after some time he adjusted his feelings and again resolved to continue the preaching tussle. So that was a very nice point. And the last kind of couple of points I want to make is that on the previous page of that quote in the Bhaktisiddhanta by Bhav, there's a nice quote where Bhaktisiddhanta mentions this, how difficulties are actually a blessing. You mentioned austerities. Sometimes we like to avoid austerities or difficulties, where the threefold miseries force us into it, but by, doing more austerities, you kind of develop a kind of tolerance, for whatever, obstacles that's inevitably going to be sent in your way. And so in page 262 of the same volume, Bhaktisiddhanta says, those who do not get severely rough-handled by the world cannot worship the Lord. So, yeah. So I do have one last point, but it's a nice quote that I've sent to some devotees, but I think I'll end there. So thank you for letting me share that. So Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So all these instructions that you're talking about, yeah, Lord Chaitanya, Trinadapi Sunishena, Tarorapi Sahishanam, he talks the same thing. Yeah. Like what you quoted from Uddhava Gita, Krishna telling Arjuna, Uddhava. Thank you. So anything else? So what is one thing that you took away from the class, Paramakarana? Give him the microphone. Microphone. Jai Baladev. The microphone. Yeah.
Has received the mantra from the spiritual master and how that mantra has helped him. He was not understanding the importance of mantra, but he was following what the advice has been given to him. He was just doing as a kind of ritual that mantra, and even he was doing the kind of ritual that mantra helped him to get to the ultimate destination.
Okay. His attachment to the Guru and the mantra that was given to him and to realize the fullness of the gift. Okay. Anything else anybody took from the class? Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Okay. Okay, so thank you all very much. And then tomorrow we'll continue. Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. I've heard